Hello everyone, this is Loco S, and welcome to a cockpit overview for the F-4E Phantom 2. This is going to be the pilot cockpit view. I will cover the Rio cockpit in a different video because not only do I want a bit more time in the Rio cockpit in order to familiarize myself with it before making content about it and other Rio content, I also quite frankly think this is going to be one of my longer videos yet, so I want to make sure I break this up and have a more focused video as much as I can. Anyways, let's start from left to right in the Phantom's cockpit. Go move our camera back and right like here. So, at the very back we have a map case. Nothing really important there. Nothing really happens there. You have the ability to override the gear safety handle. And a whole bunch of other override features are on this, and emergency stuff are on the left panel wall here. You can take another random features like if you want to take an extra camera extra camera switch, you can have it right here. So you can take a camera, you can take a with the F-4E's camera, you can actually go ahead and take a video feed of the target. So you can take a picture of the target area for post battle damage assessments and the like. You also have slats, override switch covers. Down here you have the gun camera. You can turn it even on or off. I do believe the gun camera is still a work in progress, not 100% certain. That's last I heard. You have the flap switch right here. So if you want to, if you don't want to use keybinds, which are probably going to be your best bet, you can also go down here and have the switches down, regular or up. So you can have them up and out. So you can leave that as is in the middle. Down here we have a standby indicator circuit breaker. Just don't pull it. And then you have the standby attitude indicator brightness. So there's a standby attitude system here on the main panel up here, and you can use that to adjust the brightness of it as needed. There's also a signal ejection to the Wizzo, so you can signal him to eject if you need to behind the throttle. Going down onto the actual panel down here, we have the ability to set up countermeasures here. So this is where you set up your countermeasures for chaff and then flares. Further behind that you have the aural tone volume, and this is your so different weapons make different sounds. So your sidewinders and your shrikes make an audio tone, and you'll be able to adjust that audio tone over here. So you can adjust that all the way up, or leave it somewhere ideally in the middle so it doesn't get too annoying. You also have a switch for your gyros set up there. You just generally leave that alone. Moving on down closer to us, or the pilot, we have the intercom panel down here. Generally leave it alone. You can either, the only thing that's really worth noting is that there's a volume switch and you can either set it to cold mic or hot mic. So you can either have it just on all the time, or you have to press a button in order to trigger it. I just like to have it on hot mic, less bindings, and I don't have to think about pressing anything to talk. And just leave the mid-center switch in the normal. You also have an indicator panel here for if you have the steps for your F-4E Phantom up or down, or what the state of those external steps are. As we are landed, they are indeed up. The indicator is saying that the steps are up because we have a ladder attached. If we wanted to use the ladder, the boarding steps, we would actually hit a separate button, and we'll actually get the steps from the aircraft deploying. So that's a thing there. Moving up, going back to countermeasures, there's a little bit of this panel right here dedicated to countermeasures. You have the ability to countermeasure indicator switch right there, and you have a flare indicator, so you can see how much countermeasures and flares, if you have them working or not. And then normal is whatever the Wizzo sets up for your countermeasures program, but if you need to drop flares, you can go ahead and hit the flares, and it'll allow you to dispense flares only. So you can hit the flares if you just need to run a flare program and dispense countermeasures that way. or if you want to set up, or if you want to have the wizard set up your countermeasures for like deploying chaff, you can set that down here to normal. You also have the wing fuel dump switch. You can set that either to normal or dump. Obviously, you want to leave that in normal, or else you'll lose. You'll be dumping fuel out of your wings unless you need to. You also have the internal wing transfer tanks. You can set that to either stop transmitting or to start transferring. You also have the ability to adjust if you want to do internal tanks only, or if you want to refuel all your tanks. So external and internal fuel tanks whenever you do air-to-air refueling. That's a fact. Go back here so we can look at the rest of the fuel panel. You have your air refuel switch here, and that's either this is in the retracted position, or if you need to extend the receptacle, you can do that, and it'll extend the receptacle to ready you for air-to-air refueling. And you also have your test switches for your boost pumps here. So for the right and left engines, and you also have the external tanks feed. So this is your internal wing tanks, and this would be for your external wing tanks up there, or your center external fuel tank right here. Now, you can, I believe, have the wing tanks, the external wing tanks on for takeoff, but I do believe the center line fuel tank you cannot have on takeoff because there's too much of a risk of a fire starting. Going down here, we have these two panels that we're going to hit up next. So the AFCS panel is your autopilot and stability system. As part of your start procedure, you will leave these on. These are your stability systems. You want to just turn them on, leave them on for flight, and then you have the engage AFCS and engage auto altitude hold. So these are your two autopilot systems, and then you engage them here. Up here we have a nav system for your ILS. So this panel is for ILS. You can test it right there. You can change the marker beacon volume down here, and then you have nav volume for the VOR ILS system, and then you can change the frequency up here. So go that way, and then the center knob is the decimal. The exterior, the outer knob is your main value. So go ahead and switch that back to I do believe it's this is Nellis's nav beacon. So there we go. Up in front is your engine panel. Now let's slide over here. This is your rudder trim, which is attached to the engine panel right here for reasons. You have your engine master switches, which turn on your engine for your left and right engines. Do note that turning on the left and right master, I believe it's the left master switch, but you can turn on left and right, also allows you to, when you talk to the ground crew chief, it'll allow you to talk to the crew chief without using hand signals. It'll allow you to talk to him using the intercom system. So do keep that in mind. You definitely need to turn this on to power up some of the systems just to communicate with the crew chief and I believe also the Rio. Up here you have your CDAC corrections. So you can go ahead, and I think that's a button you switch to your start procedure. And you have your engine start switch, either left or right. You have also getting further up on the panel, you have your Maverick setting for if you want it's black over white or white over black for your contrast lock polarity. You also have a little switch here, and this little hand control controls. It is actually a stick. It's not like a binary switch. It is indeed a stick, and you can use this to control certain weapons for the F-4E. Primarily, I do know it's used for the bullpup missiles. On the other side here, we have a couple more switches over here. None of these are really all that important. The only thing I would imagine would be some deployment is engine anti-icing. You can either set it to normal or have it de-icing if it's like winter conditions. Other than that, the majority of these switches are just left as is. Now we start getting into the upper side of this lower wall right here. We have the ability to turn on anti-skid, turn it off or on. We have a non-functional switch over here. Even says so right there, no function. You have an oxygen test switch. That'll test the liquid oxygen in the aircraft. And you have your oxygen panel down here. You want to make sure you flip that onto the on position for whenever you do your procedures, and you generally want to leave that on. Also, you can go ahead and put it down to normal oxygen as well. So you pretty much set up this panel and then you kind of leave it unless you need to do something for an emergency procedure or the like. This panel, underneath this little section right here, as we start going up the front of the aircraft, you have your emergency wheel brake, pull handle here if you need to do emergency brake, your gear handle right here, the big red knob. See if we can look this up. These are your boost pump gauges right here. You have your emergency external release. This is going to basically jettison all of your air-to-ground ordnance and fuel tanks. So do keep in mind that this is the oh shit button, and it'll drop everything that's an air-to-ground store. I do believe since the Sparrows and Sidewinders are on bespoke mounts, I do not believe they drop whenever the external stores button is hit, but there it is. You also have a circuit breaker here, randomly put there. You don't want to touch that. You also have an external light for your landing and taxiing. By default, it's off, but you can put it up to taxi or down the landing. This is your trim indicator. You'll be able to use it to know how much trim you're doing nose up and nose down, which is very useful for takeoff procedures. You have your slats and flaps indicators. Your flaps are on the back, and your slats are on the front of the wing. And you also have your gear indicator light. You have your gear indicators here for left, nose, and right. And you have a little light here for your recorder, telling you to know if it's your ATVR recorder is on or off. Before we get over to these joist panels here, let's zoom back out. Go right here. Here we go. This is your NSP emergency jettisons panel. You have your clock right here, which shows the in-game time. So you can go ahead and either start or stop the stopwatch there, or you can set the clock right there. So that is a thing you can do. You can play up the clock right there. And as you can see, there's a stopwatch right there. It's doing its little thing. I want to see if that clock is indeed, there's a bit of a sanity check. $11:48. Yeah. Yep, that clock is right. It is kind of annoying that the clock isn't. It's hard to tell sometimes with the clock, with the stopwatch switch. So it's definitely, yeah, it's definitely set to the right time. We were just being paranoid. That's all. Right, so that's the clock, and it just runs on its own battery power, so you don't have to worry about doing anything with setting that up. Going down over here, and then we're going to work our way up and down the panel, this lower front panel here. We have our weapons setup panel down here. This is a station. This is a jettison switch to jettison individual stations. So you want to just, in general, leave this in the off position, but if you need to jettison certain weapons, you can use the selector switch to jettison a single store. And left forward, right left, and left aft. These are all your Sidewinder stations. And then there's left wing and right wing, which jettisons the stores on that wing pylons. You can also just have a generic stores down here. And that'll jettison all your air-to-ground stores, or anything that has a store indicator. This is your interlock position. This is used for your Sparrows, so you can either fire them within quote-unquote parameters or outside of parameters. Generally, I like to leave it off, because sometimes if you're in a dogfight, the system doesn't like that you're doing such a close-in lock and will prevent firing. And sometimes you just need to get a missile off for the kill. Otherwise, you can leave it on as a quote-unquote safety measure if you need to conserve missiles. You have your various indicator lights up here for your heaters on the outside and your Sparrows in the middle. So this is basically your armament. This tells you how many Sparrows and Sidewinders that you have up here. There is a gun ammo counter in a different position. We will get to later. This sets up your missiles for firing. So you can either have it off, stand by for it to prep for the missiles, and continuous wave on to get the missiles ready to go. You have your weapon interval panel down here, so you can either have it to like a 1 bomb, 2 bomb, 3 bomb, 4 bomb, 5 bomb, and the like. P is for pairs, S is for a single, and then C is continuous. And then you have the interval selector here. So you can either select in intervals of this, or you can increase the interval by 10 times whatever amount is the arrow is pointing to. So if we do this, we're talking about an interval in seconds of 1 second, which is a interval times 10 times 0.1. So obviously that is a second interval between each shot. So you can go all the way up to, say, 5, and it'll be a 5-second interval between each drop. Go ahead and put that in SP for pairs. This is your weapon delivery mode. You can also do a nuclear. You can also jettison your nuclear weapons here if they were in DCS. So you can have your different weapon release delivery modes right here. Direct is going to be one of your primary methods. Direct. If you're using Shrikes, there's a specific one for Shrikes with the AGM-45. Otherwise, each one of these has a different function that you'll have to learn about in game. You also have a weapon selector right here, so you can go to ARM, which is your anti-radiation missiles, TV guided weapons, A, B, and C for other functionalities, AGM-12, which is, I believe, the bullpup missile, and then you have iron bombs, and then rockets and dispensers. Above that, you have the your station select buttons. You can arm, disarm individual stations right here. So you can either do right outer station, right inner, center, and then left inner and left or outer. And then you also have a separate button to arm and disarm the gun, in addition to master arm. So do keep in mind that if you need to use the gun, there is no, you have to both select the master arm and the gun switch. Also, before we end our talk about the armament panels, there is a flight instrument brightness up here, by the way, if you need to change that. But last weapon switch is the fuse switch up here. For your bombs, you can have them either saved, nose arming, nose and tail arming for your bombs. And that's it for that. Up here, we have, going into more of the, starting the flight instruments display, we have your angle of attack indicator for the Phantom. And this also will tell, now, in addition to having this indicator, as the Phantom starts getting a higher angle of attack, a tone will also play to make sure you don't get too high of an AOA and start getting into a spin. We also have a radar altitude instrument here. This is your radar altimeter, and then you have a light right here. To go ahead, you press the button in, and you can rotate this here to set your radar altitude indicator bug, which will then also trigger your low altitude indicator warning light. You also have a bug here to where you want to have your indicator for your speed for your Phantom, and then this whole assembly will change and then move around whenever you are airborne and you start getting airspeed. So it's not just like 80 knots, 100 knots, 120, 150. There's a whole bunch of steps right there. Not quite sure what I did for that. The aircraft's banging around, but oh well. There's also up here a standby primary. This is your gyro. This is your INS system. So the standby system or the primary system. This is like the final step before you take off, is to switch it over to primary. Up here, you have indicator lights for what is your currently selected air-to-air weapon, and also an arm switch to tell you that your master arm is indeed indicated for those weapons. So you have a gun, your heaters, which are your sidewinders, and your radar for your Sparrows. Also, in this tucked away in this tiny little corner, you have your true air speed and knots up there. So that's pretty that's nice. Getting into the center panel, we have the ADI ball right there with your slip gauge down below. You also have a marker beacon light so that when you're flying in on your final approach, if you fly over any marker beacons, they will appear. Here, there, up there, you have your HSI down here with different settings for setting your heading and your course. Next to that, you have the what the HSI gets its information from. So either your nav computer, ADF, Tacan, and Vortac right here. And then this is what your flight director is going to use its information to navigate you around. You can either have the flight director, which is going to be a pair of needles up here, either have it directing you to your navigation or your navigation computer's point. You can navigate to a certain heading. You can have it either navigate you to a Tacan beacon, or you can use it for your VOR, ILS for your instrument landing system approaches. And then this turns the flight director off. This turns the flight director on when it's in the horizontal position. So vertical is off, horizontal is on. Standby attitude indicator down here. Your vertical velocity indicator is up here. Again, for landing, you want to try to keep it below 0.5 if you can, or definitely below below 1. You also have your primary altimeter up here. Fire warning lights. Master caution warning light up here. Fuel gauge is up here. And then down here we have fuel flow for the left and right engines. Percent RPM setting, current RPM output for the left and right engines. Engine temperature for left and right. And then your jet nozzle position for left and right. Also down here we have the VOR but has no VOR light but has no function, just a thing that exists. You have your K28 mode indicators down here. We're going to talk about the upper panels in a bit, but right now we're going to go down and hide our joystick and talk about these panels behind the lower center console. You have your DSCG screen mode, which is the DCS CG is this screen right up here, and you can either have it off, you can either set it to the radar screen, or you can set it to whatever TV weapons that you have available if you have TV weapons equipped on the aircraft. Or it'll also select targeting pod feed if you have a targeting pod equipped. This is your accelerometer right here for measuring your historical. You're also measuring like your max G load, as well as your current G load down here. You have your gun rate. You can either set to high or low. This is your gun pod clear mode switch. This is if it does not clear or if it automatically clears for your gun pods, which are external gun pods that you mount onto the aircraft, not your internal gun. Your internal gun will always clear rounds. This is your internal round indicator for your Phantom. You can definitely tell the E model added the gun ammo counter. You can tell the F-4E added its internal gun in way later in the F-4 Phantom's development cycle, because the internal gun counter is all the way down here in the very bottom of the aircraft and not in a very easy to find spot, but there it is. It's down by your left foot for your gun ammo indicator. Your pneumatic pressure gauge here, and then your hydraulic pressure gauges are up here with your engine oil pressure gauges up there, and then you also have the ability to have a target missile reject switch down here, and then you have a strike band from band 1 to band 2 if you need to switch your strike band for whatever reason. Going up onto this upper panel here, you have your WRC RS panel up here. And then you have your range panel up here. So this is for your WRCS system up here. This is going to be your RWR system display up here. And then your RWR controls are down here. This looks very similar to the F4, the F-5E Tiger II, for good reason. But you have your system power, you have all your options here for your RWR. So mainly, your main one is you're going to worry about is power. And then you do a system test. You can do unknown radars, stuff like that. Separate the targets. Do search radars. No function for the launch. You can do a low altitude mode if you need to, so you can have different settings for your RWR down here. And this little gauge over here is your targeting pod gauge, and targeting pod attitude gauge. And this basically helps you as the pilot to determine whether or not the targeting pod is going to lose line of sight to the target on the ground, because it'll tell you how much you can bank to the left or to the right before your targeting pod loses the ability to see the target area. So you can use that as a handy gauge to determine if you're going to mask the pod relatively soon. See here, before we go down on the right console, let's look up a little bit more. There's your combiner. We have this DCS panel to cover itself. This is your HUD mode, so you can either off, standby. Standby just turns it, keeps it off but ready to go. You have cage, which cages it to a fixed point on the HUD. Air to ground mode, air to air mode, and then you have 2 bits for testing. For if you want to have, whenever you have your combiner glass and cage mode, you can have the reticle up here to decrease or increase the millage on that. You have a panel up here to indicate how many miles your radar is displaying to up there. And then you have a hold altitude light here for strike deployment. And then you have an in-range light here also. Then you also have different display settings here for the radar on this side. And we have a wheels indicator light for whenever the wheels are in transit. You have a standby compass up here. You have shoot lights on the sides and up. I do believe also whenever we bring down the canopy, which is right control and C, controls the canopy. Canopy automatically locks, so you don't have to worry about that. You have mirrors. You can click on the mirrors to toggle them on and off. You also have another shoe cue. It's attached to the up here. And then you have refueling lights for up here, and it'll tell you if your external tanks are as well getting refueled up there. You also have a pull-up switch for your labs system right there, and you have our AOA indexer right there. Moving on, back down here, we're getting towards the end. You have a manual canopy unlock right there if you need to manually unlock your canopy. You have all your warning lights down here. This panel, this little funky button right here is your arresting hook handle if you need to deploy the arresting hook. Master caution reset button right here. You can reset the cooling right there. Emergency release of the cockpit pressure right there. Those two really don't have too much functions within DCS at the moment. Let's get a good, nice low view down here. In fact, there we go. So down here we have the Tacan panel down here, which allows you to set the Tacan down there. So I do believe it is 12 X-ray for Nellis. And it is indeed 12 X-ray for Nellis. You can set all the settings down there. You can change your hundreds values. You can change your ones, like tens and ones right there. Change your ones right there. You can set your channel right here, X or Y, and then various modes right there. Go ahead down, and that next panel down below is your radio panel down here. You can set comm. This is your main comm channel, and this is the auxiliary channel down here. And then again, you have your various radar radio modes down here. And then you can either select a preset or manual, and you set manual frequencies up here. After that, we have cabin pressure indicator right there. You have your pitot heat on and off, rain removal on and off. You have your defog handle right here if you need to defog the front windscreen. You have a formation light. You have your formation lights here. You have your you can change your formation lights brightness up here. And then you can go ahead and also change your AOA indexer lights here. Next thing up on the to-do list, we have, coming back down, we have our external, we have our generator switch. You can either turn them in the off position in the center. You can use external power on the generator switches here if you push them down, or just to use the internal generators. Once you get the engines up and running, you push them forward. This is all your IFF panels with all your IFF settings and codes you can input. So that's all there. Down below is the nuclear arming panel, which is not in use, so you don't have to worry about. You're not going to worry about using this because nuclear weapons are not simulated in DCS. You have your basically your climate control over here, so your temperatures up there. We have more of your lighting controls back up here. So we have stall warning volume, if you want for your stall warning. But other than that, we have a lot of lights. So we have your SAI brightness, but that's covered in the other side of the cockpit. You have your instrument floodlights. You can set it to dim, off, or bright. You can set your RWR missile launch tone right here. We then start going into the floodlights. You can either turn your floodlights on or off. Instrument panel light, console floodlight, standby compass light or warning test light. And then you can also have your console light up there. So you can definitely use this for all your stuff. Because I have the power off, note that the only light that you can work is your white floodlight. So that'd be useful to just know or have bound, like know its position or have it bound whenever you're starting cold and dark in the middle of the night. Down here, there really isn't anything. This is your DCU mode. And by the way, if you need to know something in what way these buttons do, you can go ahead, hover over the switch, and hold down the M key. See here. Sometimes I don't think it works for this. There we go. I got it to work. Again, this is nuclear weapons down here. That's more nuclear weapon stuff, which makes sense. It's not just the one panel, it's both. You can go ahead and go back here. This is your compass panel down here. For the most part, you want to just, as part of your last few things, you're only going to be really using this to go from slave to sync. And pretty much that'll be it for your compass panel, what you do back there. And then you also have your exterior lights panel in the far back. So this is where you're going to set all your exterior lights back up here. And the very last thing I should mention down here, this is your ATVR cassette right here. So you can go ahead and, I believe, as part of the settings, you can go ahead and have, you can change the tape that you want to put in. So you can either have the videotape of your F-4E flight, or you can switch the tape to the Meteor's track, and then you can go ahead and click on that and put that in, and then you'll actually have the Meteor soundtrack playing while you fly. So you can do that, and then play the track with the when you set up the ATVR system. So that's how you actually get it to play music, which is pretty funny, I think. It's part of the ATVR cassette system. And that's, I believe, the full tour of the cockpit. Like I said, there's a lot of buttons. A lot of the buttons, a good bit of the buttons don't do anything, but there's quite a few that do. And there's also quite a few buttons that are very specific to certain weapons. So don't be overwhelmed. Just focus mostly on the buttons that are that you're going to need for your mission set that you want to do, and you'll be fine. So, anyways, this has been Loco S, signing out from DCS World. And until next time, see you all around.